Welcome to episode 1 of the Cup and Bowl Show with Jamber So Sad. I'm JP and this is Amber. Today we're going to smoke a bowl and drink some coffee and talk at you about stuff. And you can talk back if you want.
Oh goodness, you're not going to read the headlines, are you?
Maybe I'll read some headlines.
Oh gosh.
Who here likes headlines? Google has interesting headlines sometimes. And when I take a poop in the morning, I'll sit on the toilet and read some of them. Right now, I'm packing a bowl of do-si-do. It's become our morning staple bowl. Usually we have some lemon, ginger, honey water before we do coffee, but we forgot lemons from the store yesterday. And so today we're not having our lemon, ginger, honey water. We're having our coffee with our bowl. Our bowl in our bubbler, that our bowl is in, that we're gonna smoke in your face. Because you know what? When I was growing up, this was illegal. They would have put me in jail for doing this and broadcasting it. And now it's not illegal. How does that work? How are people forced into incarceration, losing years of their lives over a plant that was here before us, probably here after us, totally natural, haven't done any chemical alteration to it, just grew it from the ground, dried it out, smoked it, and when I was growing up, people were losing years of their lives in prison over what I'm doing right here in front of you all right now and not getting in any trouble for. How we think that it is any way okay that this is going on in our world, in humanity? You're wrong if you think that's okay. I'll just tell you, I don't care if you agree with me or not. You're fucking wrong. Fuck you. If you think people should lose years of their lives in prison over a natural plant that grows out of the ground, or a mushroom, or a fungus. Huh? Yeah. I didn't think so.
Buddy, Cameron's not talking back. It's okay.
Yeah, well, I know y'all are thinking stuff. Hopefully you agree with me. And if you don't, fuck you. This is what we're smoking. A little do-si-do. You see our little shelf of smoking devices and a personal piece of art there. You show Facebook land. Show Facebook land. Yeah, that's some dank do-si-do, huh? That's right. I like smoking do-si-do in the morning. I know I've showed you like every day the do-si-do we're smoking, but I like it. See Facebook?
Sets the high for the whole day.
Those are smoking utensils. That's a little smoking shelf. That's some of our personal art. All right. I know how this tastes, but I love finding out how it tastes every day.
You're such a joy.
That first of the day is always somehow one of the best. Yeah. First of the day is somehow one of the best for sure. So new Rick and Morty's coming. look out. Everybody will be glued to their TV screens, watching media at least 30 frames per second, which is a higher frame rate than we naturally view the world through our eyes and our brain, approximately 24 frames a second. Which makes me think, what is that doing exactly? You know, like, it's like we're these creatures and, you know, whatever's in the moment is true, but then, like, if things change, you know, then what was true, sometimes it's no longer true anymore, you know, at least through our perception. And maybe it's still true, it's just so true in that moment in time and space. Because, I mean, we're just moving through space on this giant fucking rock around this giant fucking fireball. And I mean, what time is really, to me, just a measurement of our movement through space.
So do animated cartoons also go 30 frames a second?
Everything that's being shown to us, basically, like on the internet and cable TV, from what I understand right now, is about 30 frames per second. I'm not really sure, like, what frame rate cartoons are at, and I know, like, things I'm pretty sure have changed from, like, when they used to do, like, cartoons by hand, and then, like, cartoons digitally. I mean, it's got to be, you know, at least somewhat different. But I imagine originally cartoons were probably somewhere around 24 frames a second. And whether they're 24 frames a second now or not, they're being broadcast to us on a screen that's playing 30 frames per second. From what I understand, most TVs out there are 30 frames a second now, or at least like what they're broadcasting on them are. Whatever. Because see, being in audiovisual media, like, everything's being recorded and exported at 30 frames per second, unless you're choosing something else like 24 or 60 or 120, whatever.
Do you do that?
I typically shoot at 60 frames a second. That way I can slow it down and not lose any video quality. But I still like to export at 24 frames a second. And whether or not, oops, my bad. Fumbly. And whether or not you're actually seeing what I'm showing you when I export it at 24 frames a second, at 24 frames a second, like when you watch it online, I'm not really sure. So maybe my video looks funny online because I exported it at 24 frames a second, but I kind of got distracted. Because what it really makes me think about is that the number of frames per second, the rate at which we see, well, it has to do with our perception. And our perception helps us determine what's true and what's not. And determining what's true and what's not is what helps us make choices and the decisions of our lives day in and day out. I see a lot of really poor choices being made by humanity in general. I mean, not excluding myself, like, maybe I'm making a lot more positive choices than some people are making, but I'm definitely not making all the right positive choices for myself. I still struggle making choices day in and day out like everyone else does. I think some people have choices to make that probably affect a lot more people than the choices that I have to make. And like, so maybe for all of us, it's a little bit more important whether they make the right choice or not. As a whole, of course, for me, it's just as important that I make the right choice for myself. But when choices affect more than just ourselves, I'd say it's almost even more it's almost even more important to make the right choice because it affects other people than ourselves. So back to this 30 frames a second. So I know you lost me for a second there, and Instagram, but I think you're following where I'm going. Back to this 30 frames a second. Altering our perception, affecting how we determine what's true and what's not, and how that affects our choices being made. Now, I see a lot of people unable to pay attention for very long or focus. Like, I literally feel like if I have something to say and it takes me more than like 15 to 30 seconds, more like 10 to 20 seconds to say it, then I've lost people. Either that or like someone's talking over me or interrupted me, or there's just a lack of attention span, a lack of focus. I see a lack of intention. And maybe some of these things have to do with the Aquarian age and the stars and whatnot, but that doesn't mean that they're not being put in front of us to push us to evolve and to overcome them. But I have to ask myself, are we doing that work? Not just individually, but like as a whole, like this whole 30 frames a second. What is increasing the frame rate at which we're watching media versus the rate at which we're seeing the world? What's that doing to our brains, to our bodies, to our eye functions? What happens when we either can't keep up with media and now 24 frames a second is boring, and that's why we have trouble paying attention and focusing or having any kind of attention span for anything, or are we gonna eventually start seeing at 30 frames a second, and what's that gonna do to our thought process? It's kind of like music's changing too.
That's exactly what I was going to say, that it reminds me of changing from, we did change it from 432
to 440.
Exactly. It's kind of a nulling over, almost like foggy, like not a precise sensation. Like you said, we perceive through our senses, it's perception, and unfortunately we rely a lot on our visual, and we don't realize how much the other senses are just as important. But yeah, with the frames per second, it is kind of a dampening of presence, what you're perceiving in a present moment, just like the numbing or dulling of the music. You're not getting that precise exact emotion sensation from it. It is now kind of pushed through a cube, so it's all the same.
Well, we're talking about like these wavelengths, wavelengths of light, these patterns that these frame rates of wavelengths of light are making on our visual senses, and the patterns that the wavelengths of sound interpreted by our eardrum is making on our audio senses. It's interesting because hey, even the 5G, like I don't feel as comfortable talking about things like music or 5G because like I don't have the understanding of them like I do with the audio, with the visual media, just because that's where I've studied. But it seems like these things are all related somehow, like they're all based on this wavelength function of matter, which, matter in itself is arguable as to what it really is. But I mean, as far as we can tell, this stuff that appears to be materialistic, it has this wave-like function in motion, and this is how, what we're being berated with as far as our senses. And everyone wants to do all these studies on like cannabis or psychedelic mushrooms that grow naturally and were here before us, before we're allowed to interact with them. But we're not studying what these changes in these wavelength functions that we're being berated with, like on a constant. If people think that smoking some marijuana or like tripping out on mushrooms for a few hours is intense, you guys have no clue with the real intensity that we're faced with every moment in life, day to day. I mean, even our lights, they're starting to fuck with the wavelengths that the light is coming out of the light bulbs at us, and they're changing that. So people are mostly glued to screens. I mean, you're watching a screen. If you're watching this right now, I'm looking at the screen of us while I'm talking to you. But I mean, we're surrounded by screens at the gas stations, at the banks, at supermarkets, like in our vehicles, in our pockets. Like we're surrounded by screens, and they're all broadcasting at a different frame rate than we see naturally, and all the music that we're listening to and being is literally being force fed to us through Clear Channel Radio. It's all being changed from 432 to 440, and then the 5G, the cell phones, everything is broadcasting through mostly. I mean, there's the Instagram right here and Facebook right here. I like we're doing it to ourselves. We're allowing it to be done to us, and it's even less natural than these so-called drugs that we're requiring being studied for years and years and years to write crazy restrictive laws about, when these profit-driven companies that are completely altering the worlds that we're living in and how we're perceiving them are allowed to just run rampant with untested technology that we don't know what's gonna happen to us as far as a species in 50 to 100 years. Cannabis has been around forever. We've been smoking it, eating it, whatever, forever. Even before it became taboo, we were consuming the hemp and cannabis, and for a long time we have it. It's been taken away. It's been removed by these taboos and the legal system. But the effects of these so-called drugs that exist naturally in the world that we live in, they're going to be far less severe than the ultimate effects of these unnatural technological alterations to our constant environment that we're making, the things that we're actually taking in, as a stimulus at a constant. In fact, I mean, personally, I wonder if it's not pushing more people towards these more natural experiences, because we're being called innately to remain in touch with nature, and what we're doing with technology is detaching from it, and so it makes perfect sense. I mean, I even have come up with an idea that maybe the lack of cannabinoids in our system is what's actually contributed to these imbalanced diseases and illnesses. Like, what if cannabinoids help our systems balance them out in all kinds of ways, and removing them for so long in society has actually allowed for these imbalanced diseases to develop it, and then add on top of that the conditions of stress that we live in. I mean, we're born into a state of trauma. Male babies are hacked at with knives, with surgical tools, you know, on some of their most sensitive areas of their bodies at birth, and we think this is normal and acceptable. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm embarrassed to be human a little bit at this point. It's embarrassing to be human. And, you know, I'm not ashamed of being human because I love humans, but it's getting embarrassing being human. I mean, we can't get along with each other on the planet. So, I mean, it's like if a nation can't get along with itself, it's vulnerable to being taken over and attacked by another nation. Well, I mean, dude, look at this planet. We are ripe for the taking over if it's not happened already. Maybe that's why we're being shoved the way that we are as a species, is that something's already here, you know? Having a hand in the way things go, but all I know is that if something isn't already here, if I was an extraterrestrial, I'd be looking at this planet and being like, haha, these things, they can't get along for the life of them, man. I bet we could just come in and take over real easily, whether by force or by manipulation.
Well,
our life is an experiment, and typically you have to slow down to see what is affecting that experiment, you know, the presence of environment we were talking about. To me, it's really difficult to understand how you're affecting the experiment as an experiment.
until you can really understand kind of the cosm of it all, you know? Like, if you don't understand how large or small the cosm is, you don't really understand how you're affecting it.
The magnitude of the cosmos.
The magnitude of the cosm, exactly. And it seems like we do have this innate nature to understand that we do affect things. Like, I've seen huge experiments going on recently of people with plants, you know, calling the plant a positive name and calling the plant a negative name, or giving the plant classical music and giving it, you know, discord music, you know, and it really does affect, you know. And so with this advanced technology that we have coming in,
Yeah,
with, you know,
that's a really interesting point.
you know, the changing political climate, we just want to, you know, develop a sense of, like you were saying, the magnitude of the cosmos. And that way we can really see how we're affecting it. And it's until you have that understanding, you're not going to really find the solution unless it's by accident.
I almost feel like those tests that you're talking about is almost some kind of evidence or circumstantial evidence of the consequences and effects of what we're doing to ourselves on the scale that we are, you know, with 5G and changing the harmonics of the music and the frame rates of the media. It seems like the, you know, the calling plant one name or the other, or playing the one music or the other for the planet is almost like some kind of relatable evidence to show that we're going to suffer a consequence, whether positive or negative, regardless of what we're doing to ourselves, to our conditions.
Typically, it takes the consequence though, to understand the gravity of the situation. You know?
It just seems like to me that we need to be applying more of these regulatory measures towards more of these less natural changes in our conditions and stimulus, and lighten up a little bit on nature, you know, and people's innate understanding and intuitions, you know, like in taking psychedelic substances, I wouldn't take them if they didn't make me feel good and weren't enlightening. I don't like things that don't make me feel good and aren't enlightening. I mean, overcoming opiate addiction in my life was a huge step in recognizing what I wanted for myself and what I didn't. And opiates being just kind of deadening and like not a positive or a fun experience, and just kind of something to sedate you so you don't have to feel pain or misery, like, that's not enjoyable. That's not what I want. That's not enlightening whatsoever. It's to me, it's meant to get you through some kind of period of unbearability. Whereas psychedelics, to me, I mean, if you were to take in a state in which you might use an opiate for, I feel like you might have a bad trip, because to me they enhance our perspective of our stimulus and our conditions, and interior and exterior. And so I think when people have a positive response to something, it says something about the state that they're in, for one, and that can lead to being able to determine whether or not it's a positive experience for that person, or if that person is in an acidic state in which they're trying to escape. Right on. Thanks for that, Ryan. That's what we need. Is we need someone, like, while we're doing our show, to like check little facts and like look up stuff that we're talking about. Sometimes I have these ideas and I don't know that other people have them, because I don't know tons and tons of people. I know quite a few people, but not like tons, and I don't always tell everyone about all my ideas. So I think like, oh, I have this idea. Like, I imagine someone else probably has it. I don't like to think that I would be the only person to have it, but I've just never met or talked to anybody else that has had some of the ideas that I have. So I don't know that anybody else has them. So they seem like ideas that only I have, to me at the moment anyway. It's nice to meet people who have similar ideas, and I'm like telling them stuff that I tell people, and most people just think I'm crazy for saying, and they're like, well, I thought that same thing. I'm like, yes, I'm really not the only one here. Well, anyway, that definitely, the caffeine is probably getting me on little rants here. Maybe we should smoke another bowl. What should we smoke? Do you want more dosey down? Or do you want OG? Duh. Oh, let's smoke some joints. Well, we're already breaking the rules of our own show. It's now cups and joints instead of cups and bowls. Stoner show. Okay. Where were we anyway? Talk about some psychedelics, and that they're pretty natural, and a lot of them were here before us. And all this kind of exterior technological, unnatural stimulation that we're putting ourselves through is probably going to have some pretty serious consequences. And maybe we should consider doing a little bit more research and slowing down the progress. I mean, hey, I'm not about slowing progress, but when slowing the progress could actually save us in the end, so that we can continue to progress forward, then I'm okay with slowing it a bit.
There's a thing called pace.
Right?
And having your pace be 100% means you're going to run out pretty quick.
A mirage be self-induced? I mean, shit, dude.
There's lucid dreaming and stuff.
There's so many different conditions. I mean, could a mirage also be a hallucination? Or are we talking about a mirage in the sense of its traditional definition, which I think would be a type of hallucination that's specifically caused by like the reflecting of light off of heat or something. There's a great film that you can see this effect in. It's called Koyaanisqatsi, and if you still have the attention span to sit through it, it's a great film, Koyaanisqatsi, it's not a traditional film by any means, but I guess as a filmmaker, I have a lot of appreciation for it. And the soundtrack is by Philip Glass. It's incredible soundtrack. And Koyaanisqatsi itself actually means life out of balance. It's a Hopi word. So if that gives you any frame of reference. But self-induced mirages, like, I mean, if you want to talk about a mirage as some form of hallucination or something, I mean, I think people induce mirages all the time. I mean, people think that Trump's a great leader. I think that is a self-induced mirage. I think that another self-induced mirage that has a lot to do with nationalism is that America is the greatest country on earth. I mean, I think there's like a lot of places that are better and worse, and I think that America is also better and worse in a lot of places. I think it's hard to say about a country as a whole because I think a lot of countries have some positive aspects and negative aspects, and a lot of times the positive and negative aspects are different about different countries, and so it's hard to say is this one really better or worse when you know you like these things about this country, but you don't like these things, but you like these things about this other country, but you don't like the other things about it. It kind of, you know, it becomes kind of gray and blurry. But I mean, that's the reality of life, is that there is no two sides of anything. Nothing is really definite or absolute. I mean, for every living thing, there is a subjective perspective. That living thing is having an experience. And if anything, I think experience is what we would probably take with us when we die. See, I'll just come out with it and tell you my crazy thoughts about why we're even here. I mean, I don't think it's really all that complicated. I mean, I think that being here is pretty complicated and complex, but I think the reason that we're here is just simply to gain experience. That's it. Of anything in this life, the only thing that I imagine that we may possibly take with us in death is experience. And I think that plays a lot into ideas and concepts about karma and reincarnation, especially evolutionary astrology, which we're very heavily into these days. If anyone wants some little amateur chart readings, we're starting to do some chart readings as a couple. We've done a lot of chart readings so far. Amber's collected a lot of charts. We've done, I think we've mostly done like couples and family chart readings where we kind of look at two people's charts, you know, and we talk to them both about their charts and how their charts interplay with each other. Or we've taken, you know, people's charts and their kids' charts and, you know, just talk to them about their charts and their kids' charts and just aspects that stand out of the charts to us. But I mean, aside from self-induced mirages that come from choice, like people's beliefs, causing them to hallucinate in some way that serves their purpose, I think that people also maybe, you know, have like mental, chemical, emotional imbalances that might cause them to hallucinate or self-induce hallucinations.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like you're talking about a mirage, an illusion. An illusion can be, you know, on the verge of insanity, or it can be you manifesting a goal. You know, it's all how it's used.
I mean, reality is an illusion, some say.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that.
But yeah, I think there's just so many ways to self-induce a mirage or a hallucination or an illusion. Whoa.
It's okay.
Lost Instagram for a sec here. You gotta reconnect. I think it might have been a good place to lose Instagram. Anyway,
That was a good question.
yeah. Yeah, thanks, Brian. That's awesome. Ooh. So back to cups and bowls, or cups and joints now. This is the coffee that we had pressed with our French press earlier. I call it an abreve because she does this cool little thing. She takes the coffee and she mixes a secret list of ingredients into the coffee, and she blends it in our NutriBullet, and then she mixes that into the little bit of coffee that she has in the cups. It's like a little baristologist drink. I mean, you got mixology, you might as well have baristology, and
Seriously.
have some cannabisology.
It's just not just.
That I am always. But yeah, these abrieves are good. You should try. Like thinking of some stuff that you imagine might be good, but like with coffee, and like tossing it into like a NutriBullet or a blender with some coffee, and then pouring that into your coffee as your creamer or whatever.
Think we're good there?
Or
Here?
no, just keep trying. Instagram's being a pinky. This is fun. I like this. We're probably going on way too long than we should. But I haven't finished my coffee yet, and we got joints. So, I mean, if you don't have anything else to do, I mean, what, you could be watching kittens or ducks or something, and that's just lame. And you can hate me for that too, and I welcome the hate, but I just don't find watching animal videos amusing, like, really whatsoever at all. Like, there was one time it's not a video. It wasn't a video. I made a video, and people thought that video was funny, which to me is funny. But one time there was this goat, okay, and it like we were living in this neighborhood, and it was like a little cul-de-sac, and these people had this goat, and the goat got out. And like they were chasing this goat around the neighborhood trying to capture the goat, and like we were watching out the window, and I thought it was fucking hilarious, so I like filmed it and I posted it. What was that social media that everyone posted little videos to? It went under like a year or so ago. Vine. Oh, anyone remember Vine? Right. Someday Instagram and Facebook will be like Vine.
You got a bunch of views on that video though.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Is like people thought that video was fucking hilarious, and I don't know if they were laughing at the goat and the person chasing it, or they were laughing at me laughing at the person chasing the goat at the very end. Because like at the end there was this, like I did this weird laugh. It was. I laughed weird, and like she thinks that my laugh is probably funnier than the person chasing the goat. I thought the person chasing the goat was funny, but I don't know. Everyone who watched the video of the person chasing the goat who liked it, like I don't know if they thought the laugh or the goat or both. I don't know. They went hand in hand. It's too bad Vine's not around because I had some funny shit on there. But yeah, fuck videos of animals. I mean, yeah, they're cool, they're funny. I think it's almost, to me, it's like paying people millions of dollars to play baseball or something, or football. It just a little overdone there. I think the dystopian future show idea is starting to get there too. I think I want to make a utopian show. A utopian future show. I got some great utopian ideas for the future, and like I can think of billion. I can think of infinite dystopian future ideas, but I mean, like, it takes a lot of like really like thought and intention put into to really figuring out how like a true utopian civilization could actually exist in action without corruption. It's hard because people corrupt things because we're corruptible, like little files or data or something. You know, it can get corrupted, and maybe not its intention, but it happens. And I think the conditions help people not be corrupted. It's like, yeah, dude, it's like files in your computer, right? You know, take care of your computer and your hard drive and your files and shit, they're probably going to be corrupted more easily, you know, if the conditions that they're existing in are shitty. But if you keep things clean and upkeep, you do maintenance, and the conditions are good, are good conditions for thriving data, then it's less likely to corrupt. And I think people in good conditions where we're not left with like less than 1% of currency in circulation, you know, for like 99% of the population, where we're like perceiving scarcity of food because there's scarcity of currency, because currency is what we use to obtain food, when food is just grown in the ground. And there's like, I don't know if you guys looked at the side of the earth lately. It's pretty fucking big. Like, it's literally so big that people can't decide whether it's flat or round. Okay? That's how fucking big this thing is that most people are convinced it's round, and a bunch of people think it's flat. And they're convinced it's flat. And I'm not going to say either one of them's right. I can't do it. It's so big that I can't just kind of be like, take your hand and, oh, come, yeah, check it out. Yeah, see, it's flat. Or no, or see, it's round. I can't do that. That's how big this fucking planet is. And we're gonna treat each other like there's a scarcity of any necessity to survive. You gotta be kidding me. You know what there's a scarcity of? Power. There's a scarcity of authority. You know why that is? Because everyone's giving up their self-power and their self-authority to authorities that are inefficacious. There's a scarcity of power and a scarcity of authority because we all give up our self-power and authority to inefficacious authorities, who then make blanket regulations and laws and force everyone to live under them. And we treat each other like there's a scarcity of necessities to survive out of the struggle for power and authority, because we've allowed the people in power to put into place a story. And this story is of value. And that story of value is currency. Because the real value is resource, opportunity, participation, the act of doing and contributing. I mean, if everyone grow some food in the ground wherever they existed, there would be plenty of food for everyone. And I mean, there's way better ways of going about it, because we can actually like do things like communicate with each other and organize and like remember how things have been done in the past and alter the way that we're doing them to do them better in the future. And by better, I mean more efficiently, so that it requires less energy for more produce. Money doesn't do that. Y'all think money does that because you were born into a system where money has done this. And it's been put in place to do this, but money's not what's doing it. People are. It's what people do. Okay? Money's not what caused people to make a wheel in order to roll things around or to develop canals, to divert water, to grow food where they live, or to grow more food in an area where there's lots of water. And I'm not saying that's the best way of doing it either, because that's agriculture. And I think the permaculture is a much better way of doing it. In fact, there's equations that you can find that can tell you how much acreage it takes for one single individual to sustainably grow enough resources to survive and to recycle the waste from existence. And if you applied these equations to the population of people on the planet and you organized and engineered areas of accumulations of populations to these equations, I think we would find that things wouldn't seem so scarce. In fact, we would find that through industry and technology, we've developed understanding of our conditions and our necessities to be able to do things even better than we've ever imagined. And it's the people who control the money, the people who are in power, the authorities of the world who are afraid to lose control over the masses. And that doesn't mean chaos and violence. That means that those particular people who are in power and control the money don't get to tell you and me how wealthy we get to be. They don't get to tell us what our standard of living gets to be. They don't get to make sure that they have more and better than everybody else. No. What the loss of control for the people in power and authority means is that we all get to reap efficacious benefits of our work and efforts. Means that we would be able to work 3 or 4 hours a day, 3 or 4 days a week, just contributing and spending the rest of the time developing our own interests and being able to contribute in areas that we actually really desire to be contributing. I mean, yeah, garbage gotta be taken out. Shit's gotta get cleaned. Waste management has to happen. Every undesirable job you can think of needs to be done, but if doing that undesirable job allowed you the same opportunity and access to resources as doing any other job, don't you think people might be a little more willing to just do the undesirable job because they don't necessarily have some desire to do anything else? Like if they don't have a calling to do something that they need to go to college for, that they don't mind doing a job that's not being valued by society right now. Like, dude, if someone wants to wash dishes or do waste management, or I'm just thinking of like dishes. Like I don't like doing dishes, but I do them. It's something that I've done and will do to earn money. I almost demand to wash my own dishes because I feel like my responsibility as a human being that consumes food off of the dishes. But like, I just feel like people would be more willing to do the jobs that they feel like are so terrible if they were able to live the same quality of life and standard of living as someone like, a doctor or a lawyer or a politician, or something, a lobbyist, these evil bankers who live lavish lives and just consume at rates above everybody else. Like, and I'm not saying that we should all consume at that rate, but we should all have access to the standard of living that these people are taking for themselves, and in doing so, taking from all of us.
So society requires participation, but when you can only participate by voting for the lesser of two evils, you abstain from participating because it's not a working system.
Yeah, you're participating in a self-destructive system, because you're choosing an evil, whether it's lesser of two, you're choosing an evil. So choosing an evil is choosing an evil. Whether it's less evil than another or not, it's choosing an evil. See, choosing evil. Those two words equal choosing evil.
But the system does need participation. People do need to do the dirty work. People do need to do the hard work. People do need to do the mundane work. It's happening now. It's simple tasks. It's life. We all brush our teeth. We all do the same things.
Food has to be grown.
We understand there's a responsibility with living.
Harvested, processed, all this stuff. Like, I think we should all be taking a hand in a lot more of this. And if a lot more of us were taking a lot more of a hand in it, all of us would be able to take a lot less of a hand in it. And we'd all have a lot more time for the things that we want to be doing, instead of specific people having all the time to do whatever they want and everything they want. And the majority of us having almost no time to do the things that we want. I don't know. I'm about done with my cup of coffee. I done smoked a bowl and a joint. I guess the only thing left to do is to do a dab to wrap up this controversial episode of Cups and Bowls. Episode number 1, where JP just reveals all. And hey, maybe if there's some topics that we covered in this episode that people would like to expand on or join us in a discussion for, that could be arranged. This is the kind of anarchy that we are promoting and condoning. A constructive, productive, collaborative anarchy, and it's peaceful. If you don't want to have a discussion with us, you don't have to. If you don't want to tune in, you don't have to. But if you want to have a discussion with us, that can be done. This is anarchy, people. Yeah, it's not anarchy that's been sold to you by your lying, inefficacious authorities our whole lives. This is the anarchy of the people. This is real anarchy. This is true anarchy. This is the powerful anarchy that the authorities do not want the individuals to understand or access for themselves. So join us in anarchy and let us know what you want to talk more about, and if you want to join us in conversation.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about as well.
If there's any strains you want us to smoke, send them on over. We'll smoke them. We'll tell you what we think about them. We'll talk about you and your strain, whatever. You got a product? Whatever, man. This is anarchy. This is the power in our hands. The power of free media and broadcasting. So take hold of it and do something with it, people. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.